Hey everybody, John Woolworth here for Photo and a Teardrop. We're back from Florida now and got everything kind of sorted back out again, and I wanted to just give a little bit of a tour of our teardrop camper. As I said in an earlier video, our teardrop was a home built, and it was built by a cabinet maker, which he did a really good job in some ways and not so good in other ways. If you can see even right behind me here, the wood grain looks really good. He actually kind of bookended the wood grain, but you know, when you build a cabinet, you're not planning on having it sitting out in the rain, and so there was a lot of things that were not done quite right as far as weather sealing goes, and there were just a lot of things that were not really thought of for a camping aspect of it. And I was just going to show you some of the things that we've done that make our life easier when it comes to just daily living when we're out camping with this camper. So I'm just going to start out with the basics here. Again, we have a home-built trailer, and it was built on a 5x8 utility trailer. I know a lot of people do 4x8 teardrop campers, but the extra foot to me is really worth it, especially if there's two people going to be sleeping in here. And here's the inside of it. As you can see, it's a good sized bed. We have a memory foam mattress that we sleep on. One of the other videos we saw, they said they put foam mats, like the high density foam mats, underneath the memory foam mattress, and that kind of took the edge off it, so you don't end up actually like putting your hip through it and you know, having a hot spot when you're trying to sleep. And I think that's probably a good idea. I'm probably gonna end up doing that. There's enough room for us to, me and my wife, when I say us, both sleep comfortably in here. And if you need a little bit of extra room, you can always sleep just a little bit kitty corner. I'm about 5'11", and I fit in here pretty well. Your limit is probably about 6 feet in a normal teardrop camper. But as you can see, the wood grain is really good. We've got cabinets up above our sleeping area here. Got plenty of room for towels, clothing, whatever else. And then I think when this was originally designed, it was designed when people were still using big CRT TVs, and so there's room for what appears to be a TV VCR combination. We don't actually use it for that. Probably in the future I'm going to end up putting a door on there too, so we can use it for additional storage. Then on the other side, we also have some smaller cabinets right above the bed area. We have reading lights right here. They're actually quite nice and bright. So if you want to read at night, you can do that. I know some teardrops only have one door, and I'll tell you what, I really appreciate having a door on each side, because if one of you wants to get out, you don't have to disturb the other person. We have dual power in here. There is a deep cycle battery on the front, and we have 110 volt outlets for when we are hooked up to shore power, but there's also a 12 volt outlet up in where the, as I mentioned, where the TV would have been. And we have a charger here that when we're hooked up to shore power, charges the 12 volt battery, and there actually is an inverter on there as well. So if we need to hook up something that doesn't take a lot of draw, we can hook a 110 outlet into that as well, even if we're not hooked up to shore power. One of the great things in here is that we do have a fan, an exhaust fan, and it blows in or out. You know, you can switch it whether you want to have it blowing air in or blowing air out. Really does keep it pretty cool in here up to a certain point. Each of the doors has a roll-out window on it, which is a really nice feature. As I mentioned before, not everything was really waterproof very well when we got this, and one of the ways, the first way we discovered this, was that there's a piano hinge that holds the doors on, which, you know, works really well for what it does, but a piano hinge is not in the slightest bit waterproof, and so pretty much the first time it rained, we noticed that water was getting into both doors. So I did a little bit of research, and the best solution was actually to completely take off the piano hinge and take a bicycle tube, cut it open, and put it behind the bicycle hinge before you put it back on, and it actually completely seals it up. Now it's getting a little worn at this point, it's getting a little dry rotted, and I need to replace it, but it completely sealed off the door from getting water in the hinges, so that was great. One of the other things I discovered is that when water would hit the door here, and it's okay if a little bit of water gets in here as long as it has somewhere to go, But I don't know if this was part of the design or not, but when this trailer was new, this piece of wood down here was not here, and so it was actually a flat floor. So what we would discover is that when water came in along the edge here, it would get to the bottom here, and since this piece of wood was not here, it would just run in and soak the mattress. So I got a piece of oak, I varnished it, urethaned it to make it waterproof, and then just sealed it up in here. And so there's a ledge, so if any water gets in, it has to run over it, and that obviously doesn't happen. So that's one of the things we had to do in order to seal this up. By far the biggest issue, though, as far as weather sealing went, was that this was a wood trailer when it was built. There was no sheeting on the outside of it, and you know, I don't care how well you seal a wood trailer. Eventually, it's going to get nicks in, and it's going to get cracks in the paint, and when that happens, it's just going to soak up water like a sponge. And the other issue that happens with wood trailers is that nobody really thinks about is that it's not just the surface of the wood that can soak up water, it's especially the end grain. And so especially where the pieces of wood come together, if there's any kind of a gap in there, it will soak up water into that end grain and swell it out, and that will cause the rest of the paint to crack. And then you've got all kinds of problems, and that's what we ran into, to the point where after a couple of years, where this door joins to the back of the camper here, it had rotted so badly that there was actually a hole in the back of it, and the door was separating, and we were wondering if we were even going to be able to use this or not. So what I did was, once I decided that I was going to actually fix this camper, I of course cut out the rotten wood, which was quite a bit of a chore on its own. I had to take the door off, had to cut a pretty big piece out of the back here, get new wood, splice it in there, and then I bought aluminum sheeting from a company that makes metal roofing, and I bought the color. You can pretty much buy any color you want from a place like that, and so I got this slightly off-white color. It looks really good. I screwed it in on the edges, and then also sealed it with roof flashing sealer, like for a regular house roof, and that stuff really seals up well. I would recommend that over any kind of silicone or anything like that, because once it's on there, it's on there, and it seals really well. Obviously, I mean, it's good enough for a roof, so it's probably good enough for the side of your camper as well. But the whole thing now is sheeted in aluminum, except for the back door, which had a lot of riveted parts and things like that, and I'm going to tackle that eventually, but I haven't gotten to it yet, and that part hasn't leaked as of yet, so I'm sure it's going to, but at that point I'll just take the door off and I'll redo it. Now next up is our kitchen area, which is something that I really love. As you can see, we've got 3 bottom cabinets, and each of them gives you quite a bit of room. We keep our foodstuffs in there, we keep our pots, we keep all kinds of stuff like that. Our little propane tanks. And one of the things that made life a lot easier for us that we did on this last trip was we bought one of those instant hot water pots. It'll boil water in like 5 minutes. And so we're on shore power, we can plug this into the 110 and it'll heat up water really, really quickly. We don't have to waste propane on that. And we also got a French press for coffee. So rather than having a coffee maker like we used to do, we just make French press coffee, and actually tastes better, and we don't have to use any propane to make coffee in the morning. Now we have a small counter here that works pretty well, but I wanted a little bit more space. But something that I did was I took another piano hinge and I doubled the size of our counter. So now we have twice as much space to work on here, and I'm able to stand out a little bit farther from the camper so I don't hit my head anymore. And up here we do have another cabinet. It's a sliding cabinet. And we're able to put some of the more shallow things in there, like boxes of spaghetti, small bags, small containers, our cutlery, our knives, that can all go in there. And then on the other side, it's a dual-sided cabinet. So on the other side, there is also a 110 outlet and a 12-volt outlet as well, so we have power outside. Additionally, we have lighting out here as well. One light on each side so we can work out in the kitchen at night. This is 12-volt lighting, so even if we're not hooked up to shore power, we have lighting. All the lighting in here is 12-volt. We also have our camp stove that we keep in here. And this is a Coleman camp stove, propane. And it's got 2 burners, and it works really, really well. It actually boils water faster than our range in our house, if you can believe that. I also have leveling jacks under here, which is a really great feature to have. I would definitely recommend having them on a trailer. It keeps it from rocking back and forth if you're moving around inside. It is a small trailer, so it's pretty easy to move if it's not leveled. Coming around the front, we have our battery box here. We have a single deep cycle battery that we run our 12 volt off of. I may end up upgrading to a dual battery setup sometime in the future. We're actually going to put a box on here at some point so we can keep the battery and chairs and all kinds of other stuff like that in the front of the camper rather than having it either inside the camper or in our vehicle while we're traveling. Make things a whole lot easier. Now, I'd be remiss in this tour if I didn't also mention the tow vehicle we're using. You can pull a teardrop camper with really just about any vehicle. When we first started using our teardrop, we were pulling it with our Volkswagen Passat. It was a 2013 Passat with a 2.5 liter gas engine in it. And it did a pretty good job. I mean, it didn't have any problems getting it up hills or anything like that, but you were always aware that the camper was behind you. There was a lot of shuddering, especially if we went over bumps or anything like that. And when we were going highway speeds, it never seemed to know really what gear it wanted to be in. It was always trying to rev a little bit higher than it would have liked to. So when it was time to replace my old vehicle, we really thought about what we'd like to be able to tow with. And I did a lot of research, and I know a lot of people like to pull campers with Subarus. They're all-wheel drive and they're very reliable. I know they're the favorite right now, but what I ended up settling on was a Mercedes GLK 250. And as you can see, it's a small SUV, but the kicker is that you can get it, or you could get it when they had them, in a 2-liter twin-turbo diesel engine. It's actually rated to tow up to 3,500 pounds. I've seen pictures of people pulling an Airstream with this, although I don't think I'd personally try that myself, but I've seen that you can do it anyway. I've pulled the camper a couple of times with it now, and it's just fantastic. I don't think there's a better tow vehicle out there. I was able to pull the camper and you don't even know there's anything behind you. I got 26 miles to the gallon pulling a fully loaded teardrop camper. It's got an all-wheel drive system. From what I've seen in my research, is actually one of the best ones out there. So if you need to drive it in snow or whatever, it's really good for that. It's got some good ground clearance underneath it. One of the other reasons I chose this vehicle, believe it or not, was for the economics of it. You wouldn't think buying a Mercedes would be a good financial decision if you're planning on towing a camper with it, but there's a couple factors that most people don't take into consideration. One of them is depreciation. So I know a lot of people like buying Subarus because they don't depreciate, and if you're buying a new car, that's a good thing. But I never buy a new car, and when I do buy a car, I drive it until it's in the ground. So for that aspect of it, depreciation really is my friend. I bought this when it was 3.5 years old, and it had already lost 60% of its value from new. So I was able to get a really good deal on it. And since I don't plan to sell it until it's done, it was a good win for me. I will say that if it does break, the cost of repairing it is expensive, but the maintenance isn't any worse. Since I'm a hands-on kind of guy and I do all my own oil changes and all that kind of stuff like that, you don't go to the dealership if you want to have maintenance done. They'll, if you ask them how much it is, they're going to tell you, well, if you have to ask, you can't afford it. So I try to do all that myself. So you might be wondering, after all the modifications I talked about that we had to do, all of the repairs, was it really worth it? And I would say absolutely it was. Not only for the enjoyment that we've had being able to use this teardrop camper, but also because of the cost that was involved. So if we'd gone out and bought a factory-built camper, it would have cost us a minimum of $10,000. We paid $2,800 for this teardrop camper, and then even with all the repairs and the modifications, even the ones that we plan to still do in the future, it's going to be under $4,000 total that we're into this project. So I don't know anywhere else where you can pay $4,000 and come out with a fully functioning, good camper that you can use on a regular basis. So for that, it was absolutely worth it, and we're going to get a lot of enjoyment out of it in the future. And if you like this video, please give us a thumbs up, subscribe, share it. It really does help us to be able to produce more content like this. Thanks a lot.